Hi everyone, welcome back to another ballet technique video. Today we are going to be talking about demi and grand plie at the bar. I will first go through the general technique that applies to every position, and after that I want to go through first, second, fourth, and fifth position plies and talk about some of the common mistakes that happen in those positions. So I'm sure all of you have probably already done a demi and grand plie before, but let's go over what it should feel like. So on the way down, you should feel a stretch in your inner thighs and your calves and Achilles tendon. In demi-plie, you will still have your heels on the ground. And then in grand plie, you're still feeling that stretch, but your heels will lift off. You never want to artificially lift your heels high. They'll lift off whatever amount they want to lift off, and you work with that. And then to come up, you have to press. This is the muscular part of the demi-plie. I'm already feeling my thighs really shake. Press to demi-plie and then straighten all the way back to standing. So you always have to go through the demi-plie position to get back up from a grand plie. One of the most common questions that I receive about plies in general is how deep a dancer should go. And the answer depends on how deep you can go while still keeping the stretch and the engagement of your legs. So the deepest that you can go in your demi-plie while still keeping the heels on the ground, for me, this is the max I can go. Sure, I can go lower by cheating, like sticking my butt out. For example, this will make me look like I'm going lower in my demi-plie, but I'm really not. So again, demi-plie is the lowest you can go while keeping the heels down, feeling the stretch in your calves. For grand plie, things are a little bit different. So my grand plie, I would say the lowest point I usually hit is here. But if I really want to, I can go even lower than that. But the reason why I don't go lower than that is because I lose the engagement of my muscles, and it's super, super hard to recover from this because now I have to take my butt back out to go up. So what you want to think about is stretch, 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 feeling my inner thighs, feeling my calves, still feeling that stretch. And then there's some point of the grand plie where if you go lower, you don't really feel a stretch anymore. You actually feel like you're relaxing. And that's the point you don't want to hit. So you want to feel the stretch as much as you possibly can and then recover from it. Grand plie is not about how low you can go into the ground. It's about how much stretch you can get in your legs. You keep that in mind, that should guide you in how deep you should go into a grand plie. Let's talk a little bit about hip alignment in the plies. So you will start off in neutral, right? So you're not tucked like this, where you're sticking your butt like under you, and you're not sticking your butt back and out. You are kind of just neutral up and down. For many people, this is going to feel like a slight tuck, because most of the time when we're, just walking and being like a normal pedestrian in the world, we are a little bit more like this. And then because ballet is making us do this, it feels tucked. But this is what ballet usually considers to be neutral. So it's the ballet neutral, but it's probably your definition of tucked, if that makes any sense. So you want to be in the ballet neutral hip alignment, right? Where your tailbone is pointing down, directly down. And then when you go into your demi-plie, you still have your tailbone pointing down. Grand plie, same thing. One thing that usually happens is you're good in your demis, maybe you're good in your grand, tailbone is down. On the way up, you cheat it by going back a little bit and then doing this, and then coming back up. I'm exaggerating. Most people don't do that much of a cheat, but I usually see everything looks neutral and good, and then just a little bit back, just a little bit, right? And then you come back up and you recover to neutral. So just make sure that your tailbone is always just pointing directly down into the ground the whole time. So on top of keeping your pelvis neutral, you also want to make sure that your knees are opening up sideways like a diamond, and the knees are over the second toes, okay? So you never want to do this where the knees are going more forward in front of your toes. You want them right over. And this will protect your knees. If you have started ballet lessons and you notice you walk out with some knee pain, it's most likely because you're not using your turnout correctly and you're collapsing your knees in front of your toes. So just be super careful about that. And then the last thing I want to talk about here is making sure that we're keeping our bodies nice and lifted up. It's sometimes pretty common to be so focused on the legs that you kind of relax and you sink into your hips with your upper body, but you want to make sure that you're still really, really tall right here in the side of your waist, and you want to keep that length in the whole time when you're doing your grand, you're still feeling really tall and nice and lifted. And that's going to help you get up from the grand plie, especially because it's going to help alleviate some of the work that your leg has to do. So now let's go into each of the positions. In first position, I noticed that sometimes, beginners will go into their demi-pliés, and it might be tempting to get into like a bigger, more turned out position, because when your knees are bent, you can kind of ask your knees and other joints to help with the turnout. So it might feel like, oh, I'm more turned out at the bottom. But then when you stand up, if you can't hold on to that engagement and then your arch collapses forward, that is the beginning of a lot of annoying knee issues for your future. So even though you might feel like you can turn out more in your pliés, you only want to turn out as much as you can, as long as you can hold on to that turnout when you were up on both legs and you're straight. As long as your knees are still over the toes, even here, it's okay. You don't really just want to be like this. If I let go, I can feel all the weight collapsing to the big toe and where my bunion area is. So you want to make sure your arch is still lifted, and just use the turnout that you have, that you're comfortable controlling and holding on to when both legs are straight. And another mistake that I see, this is again not just in first position, but just more noticeable in first position, is when dancers are in their grand plie, they are not on their second toe. They are kind of leaning back to their pinky. So I'll show you what that looks like from the side. This is me on my second toe in the grand plie. This is me in my pinkies now. Do you see that difference? You see what my ankle is doing? You never ever want to put the weight back in your pinky toes, because it is just really not strong enough to support your body weight. It is a very dangerous way to be dancing. So just make sure that when you're in your deepest position at the bottom of a grand plie, your weight is still towards your second or third toe. There's not much to really point out in second position, other than when you do your grand pliés, your heels do not lift off the ground. They still stay on. In the other positions, they'll lift, but here they stay touching the ground in the grand plie. One thing I will mention is that there are two big schools of thoughts with the grand plie in second position. The first school of thought is you do your tendu, you set your foot down. Wherever you set your foot down, this is your second position. No adjustment. The second school of thought is you tendu, set that foot down, you scoot the inside foot in, and now you have a wider second position. You can go into a deeper second position. So I will say the wider second position is more of like a contemporary second position. It started appearing more kind of recently. It's not really what is recommended in like the classical methods. But personally, I do feel like a wider second position feels good for my body. I can get more of a stretch out of it. I can adjust my body to use a smaller second position in choreography or in classes where the teacher would prefer the more classical second position. So it's up to you. I just want to give you that knowledge, and you're free to choose whatever makes you comfortable here. Now let's move on to talking about pliés in fourth position. I will say this is probably the most problematic positions for folks across the board, because there are so many ways that things can go wrong here. So let's talk about the setup first of all. There are many ways to do a fourth position. You can do like a first position and then just scooting that front foot forward. And then there are different schools where you start from like a third position and then you scoot forward, or a fifth position and you scoot forward. So it's essentially about how narrow you want that fourth position to be. And every school is gonna have their own preferences. Personally, I don't really like a super wide fourth position because of how it looks. I also don't really like a super narrow first position where you're coming from fifth. This really bothers my hips and my knees. I don't really have the body to be dancing in a really cross fourth position. So for me, it's not really a third and forward, it's more of like a third, fifth-ish, and then forward. This again is a little bit controversial. People are gonna have a lot of takes on fourth position and what you should do, but I've just discovered through the years after trying different fourth positions on myself that this is what I can do without hurting myself. So it's up to you again, but I would just recommend starting from maybe third and then going here, doing like a heel to arch, kind of a fourth position. Next, let's talk about how far apart your legs should be for fourth position. The recommendation is usually like 1 foot, so one of your own foot, like the length of one of your foot or 1.5 of your foot. Personally, I am more in like 1.25 of my own foot. That's just something that I found out feels good for my body after a lot of experimentation. There is some leeway between one of your feet versus 1.25 of your feet, but there's really not much. You really should not be doing like 2 feet in between, you know, for the demi and grand pliés. And another thing that I want you to think about is that front hip. A really, really common mistake is to have this front hip like twisted towards the audience. You want to pull this front hip almost like back so that you can keep a nice parallel line with your hips. So from the side, if I were to have my front foot out and my hip out, it'd be like this. And then if I pull it back, it'd be more parallel. So that's to set up the fourth position, figuring out how crossed you want it to be, figuring how big you want it to be, and then just making sure that this hip is staying back in kind of the same plane as your bar hip. So from here, you want to do your demi pliés, making sure both feet are evenly turned out. That's another thing that is very tricky. From here, when you go into your grand plié, one of the things I notice pretty frequently is that people tend to sit back on their left leg, or sorry, not left leg, back leg. So what I mean by that is if you do your grand plié, you know, you want even weight here, and then they start sitting in their back leg, and then they come back even weight, and then they come back up. So in first position, what that would look like is, okay, you're even, and then you start sitting on one side, and you come back even, and then you stand up even. So make sure that when you're in your grand plié, you're not really sitting on one hip or the other. And one way to like really test this out is to let go of the bar and do a grand plié, and then come back to demi. Make sure you're not here or here. You're right in the middle, wherever that means for your body. And then you can stand up from there. I will say fourth position is really tricky because the tendency is to put a ton of weight on the back leg because we don't really like being in the front leg. So one thing that I've had to kind of emphasize is make sure you have more weight in your front leg than your back leg. And when I tell people that, they usually become even. So even though I'm telling people put more weight in your front leg than your back leg, like 60% of your weight in your front leg, what actually ends up happening is that they look like they're 50-50. So you might want to try out that trick and see that if you think more front leg, if that would help you actually become more even at the end of the day. All right, so that's everything for fourth position for now. Let's move on to fifth position. Something that I notice in fifth and fourth position is that sometimes people tend to turn out their front leg a little bit more. It's mainly because they don't have enough weight on it. So that's why it feels easier to turn out your front leg than your back leg. So you just want to make sure that you are turned out equally on both legs before you start. So another common mistake that I see happen often is there's like a little bit of a cheat coming back up from the grand plié. So your tailbone's pointing down, you're evenly turned on both feet. You go into your demi, your deepest demi that you can't keep your heels down. When you go down here, this is the deepest that you can go with, still feeling the engagement of your thighs. And when you come back up, sometimes I see this, like a pitch forward with the upper body. Like you do this and then you come back up. That is significantly easier to come back up that way. It's really hard to keep your upper body nice and straight and just come up because it requires like much more work in your legs. So I'll just say, keep an eye on that. Many people do that without noticing that they're doing that, but I have seen it pretty often. And of course, similar to the fourth position where you like lean on one leg or another leg to do your demi and grand pliés, make sure that you are evenly on both legs here. Make sure you're not on your back leg like this. Make sure you're not on your outside leg like this, right? Just want to be evenly distributed weight here. And then you go down keeping even weight. It's really tricky, then coming back up. If you are like a fencer or you have like a really dominant leg, you might realize that you tend to lean toward the dominant leg. Usually people's dominant leg is just whatever the back leg is. So yes, just, you know, keep in mind that that happens. Well, thank you so much for listening to me blab so long about pliés. I hope you found this helpful. The last thing that I want to talk about is that pliés are highly dependent on what you are about to do next. So if you're gonna do a pirouette from 4th position, right? Your plie is not necessarily gonna be even. You're gonna have more weight in your front leg, and then you go into the turn. But when you're at the bar, you want the weight to be even. And if you're about to do a jump from a plie, you send a lot of energy to your legs and you're like building it up on the way down, and then you release, and then you let yourself jump. But at the bar, you're not really building energy on the way down. You're just thinking press, 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 and then press, 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 press. It's not like a press and a let go. There's no letting go, right? Coming back up from a grand plie at the bar. And maybe visually, every plie kind of looks the same, but the intention of the plie and the coordination and what you're really doing with your muscles is slightly different depending on what you're trying to do next after the pliés. So anyways, let's wrap that up for today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in a lesson or the next technique video. Bye everyone.